Looks like IBM had $11 billion laying around, burning a hole in their pocket. You're watching TechStrong, gang. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's Alan Shimel. I am back in the Boca Studios here for TechStrong, and I am damn glad to be home, to tell you the truth, after my AWS reInvent excursion. Mitch, you were there with me. Mike Vizard, you were there with me. It was a full week of a lot of good stuff. We've got a ton of content. If you check on TechStrong TV and on all the various websites, you'll see it. But we're here today to talk about some fresh stuff, fresh news for this fine Tuesday. And we got fine people to talk about it with. I'm happy to see her here. I didn't see her at AWS. My friend Hope Lynch. Hi, Hope. Stephen Foskett. He's about to jet off to New York City. He's such a jet setter, that Foskett. But happy to have him here, Stephen. And then, as I mentioned before, Mitch and Mike. Good to see you both not in Vegas, because you know what happened there stayed there. Anyway, Mike, we've got a busy day. Anthropic is, well, I have my own views on this, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Mike, why don't you kick it off?
Anthropic's been really busy. They acquired an outfit called Bun to get a new application development tool. They signed a deal with Snowflake for a partnership for connecting data to various LLMs, and there's now rumors there'll be an IPO in 2026. But Mitch, what's your take on what's going on with Anthropic here? Because they always felt a little bit like, the alternative to OpenAI, but, are they starting to maybe emerge as a bigger, more powerful force with a little help from our friends over there at AWS that we talked to last week?
Well, they're certainly beefing up the development space, right? People see Sonnet 3.5 as a really strong, maybe the best of the models for generating software, orchestrating some of those processes. And Bun brings, probably not well known by a lot of people, but Bun brings a runtime Java environment. So I imagine what they're doing is kind of using this to create sandboxes, maybe production environments, things like that, just accelerate the process of using the software that you're generating. Maybe they have other designs as well. We'll see what they have. They didn't disclose an amount, so it's only I think it's 2022 when the company started, so it's pretty young. They'll get folded in and assimilated, but I think it's Anthropic positioning very strongly go after the developer market.
I think clearly Anthropic has set their sights on being the developer's AI tool of choice for coding, right? You hear this over and over again. Yes, OpenAI's tried it with 5.1 to do better and Gemini 3.0, but the Anthropic, and Mitch, is it Sonic Claude? I forget now.
It's Claude Sonic 3.5.
Right.
They're actually up to 4.5.
Yeah, I thought it was 4.5, Mitch.
4 is the new one. It just came out, but 3.5 has been considered the best, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I think every new one is the best one, but
it is. Every new one is the best one. There's a meme on the internet that shows OpenAI with Gemini with Claude, and there's an arrow, and every time someone releases a new model, there's a little bubble over it that says, now we have the best one.
Right, until the next one. But clearly they've made this this is the beach there, or, the hill they're going to attack here, right? Hamburger Hill. And power to them. The other thing I'll say, though, is this. It's the lesson, I've said it here before, Brad Fell taught us this, Mitch. Be in the top 3. You don't always, number 1 gets a good share of the money, but so's number 2. And I think they've clearly enunciated or a number 2 space. Though, look, Google Gemini is a powerhouse, and they've got Google behind them. So there's an interesting race. And there are others. There's X, and others that are coming out. But clearly Anthropic has staked their claim here. The deal with Snowflake, again, it goes right into their developer sweet spot, data management. And, you know, as far as an IPO goes, I think that'll depend on the broader market conditions. Is this bubble keep, you know, if you've seen Wicked, does Glenda keep hitting the pedal that makes the bubble grow? Or does, poof, the bubble burst?
Hey, Hope, do you think that we're going to see some bifurcation where maybe OpenAI and Google are the AI platforms of choice for the consumers, and Anthropic is more of the corporate AI platform?
I actually think we already see it, honestly. Most of Anthropic's growth has been with enterprise customers. Most of OpenAI's growth, even if you just count monthly active users, right, has been with consumers. But if you look at the revenue both of them have, I think Anthropic is now at $7 billion in revenue, hitting what, a billion in 6 months. But OpenAI is 2.5 times that, but they are counting on converting non-paying users, which a lot of people I know who aren't paying don't plan to start paying. The money is in the enterprise. So Anthropic definitely has already diverged. But then we have the other smaller players like Meta. You know, they're saying, well, we're going to give it away for free. Maybe that's going to make people adopt. But really the horse race, to Alan's point, it's between Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic, but the divergence is already there.
Agreed.
One more thing I'd like to add on that point, too, is the difference in fundraising here. So Anthropic, by all accounts, has raised a little under half as much as OpenAI. They're looking at an IPO. As you mentioned, they seem to be aiming at enterprise customers. I think this is part of a strategy from Anthropic to be more of a, I don't know, like a relevant. Yeah, like they're trying to build a company that has more traditional appeal to Wall Street, more traditional appeal to business. And I think that's a good strategy for them. At least it's a good differentiator from OpenAI.
Yeah, no, they haven't pledged $1.5 trillion that they're going to spend on AI data centers and chips and so forth.
You know, not to be left out of the discussion, AWS has announced Nova 2. So they're doing their own model now to, you know, so they aren't entirely dependent upon the Anthropics and OpenAIs of the world. So the market is expanding.
I think AWS's strategy is Nova is kind of their default for their preferred customers, and then Anthropic is choice number 2, and then everybody else is. Do you really want that? Are you sure?
Well, but that's the AWS model, right? We'll give you our in-house thing, 80% of the functionality, 20% of the price. Or you could use best of breed, but you're going to pay for it. And then, and then there's Switzerland with Bedrock that plugs into anything.
Leveraging those Trainium chips, right?
Yep. Anyway.
But one more quick point on Anthropic. Not to be overlooked is what they're actually doing, in my opinion, is vertical integration, right? So they're saying we own the model. We are embedding it into enterprise data platforms through Snowflake, and now they own the runtime infrastructure. So for me, this is a little bit like Apple when they said, you know what, we're gonna build our own chips. Google, we're gonna build our own chips. Tesla, we're gonna make our own batteries. So they are eliminating more dependencies, but trying to make themselves more valuable to the enterprise.
The problem there, Hope, is I think vertical integration in the AI stack and frontier model, Google is in a powerful position there.
They really are.
No doubt. All right. If we don't have anything else on this one, it's big news. We'll keep our eyes on our friends at Claude, Sonnet, Anthropic, and see what happens. Congratulations to the folks from Bun, though, by the way. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little more M&A activity from Big Blue. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
You've earned it. The spotlight, the responsibility, The weight of teams, companies, and entire industries fall on your shoulders. Lives depend on your decisions, your home life included. At work, you're protected, physically and digitally. Nothing gets through your team without a fight. But in a globally connected world, everyone sees you, including those who mean to cause you and your organization harm. And now home, your sanctuary. Attackers see an opportunity. Your digital front door is wide open. And what compromises your home can breach your boardroom. Because the devil's greatest trick isn't targeting your workplace firewall. It's convincing you that your personal life isn't at risk. Black Cloak. Digital executive protection, defending the new attack surface. Your personal life.
Hey, folks, we're back. And as Alan alluded to at the top of the show, IBM is spending an inordinate amount of money to buy Confluent, a provider of a managed service around Kafka, which is a streaming data processing platform, open source, originally developed by LinkedIn, and is now widely used to drive a lot of data in real time to where it needs to be. And of course, that has a lot of implications for AI. But Alan, I know you've been looking lately into IBM and having some thoughts about them in general, but this is the latest in a series of acquisitions. And so to quote the new old book there by Franz Kafka. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, is it Kafka? Yeah. Metamorphosis, where I guess basically he thinks he's turning into a cockroach. But what is IBM becoming in all of this?
You know what? IBM is a cutting edge software provider. I think you got to look at, yes, IBM always makes a lot of acquisitions, right? Growing by acquisitions is near and dear to them. Not that they don't grow organically, but to me, you take Red Hat, you take HashiCorp, and now Confluent, and you have a modern software stack that is open source friendly. IBM's got to be, there's a claim to be made that they're the most open source friendly of the large tech companies out there, right? Think about Red Hat, Hashi. Hashi changed their license a little, but they're still big on open. And now Confluence, Apache Kafka. I think it's a great move by IBM. Is $11 billion a lot of money? You know what I've learned sitting at this desk? The day we announced the deal, it sounds extraordinarily expensive. A year or two down the road, with the hindsight, it was a bargain, right?
Yeah. What did they pay? What did they pay for Red Hat?
$34.5 billion, I believe.
All right. So
still one of the largest software deals ever. HashiCorp, they picked up for a song and a dance comparatively. But
Hope, I think they also bought, is it Databricks? Is that the one they got?
No, they don't own Databricks.
DataStax?
I remember. So yeah, Red Hat, Hashi, because then they got Terraform. They bought Vault for secrets management.
Well, Vault comes with Hashi.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I think
Vault
it's a
with
data
Hashi.
stacks.
But yeah, in Confluent, so for the real-time data backbone. But
yeah, that's right. They bought DataStax, to clarify the thing, last year.
There we go.
Which is a NoSQL vector database. So I think that, to me, I read this as to say that IBM's trying to make a play for the data and less for the AI models. And if I can own all the data and all the pipelines, maybe I will dominate this thing. Stephen, what do you think? Is data king?
Oh, data is king, and Kafka is excellent. I got to say, this is a pretty exciting move in my mind for IBM. As you said, I mean, they've acquired so many companies in, especially this classic open source model of developing real open source software and then offering enterprise level support and managed services around it. That is exactly what they're doing here with this acquisition, and what they've acquired here is one of the leading companies. If you go to talk to data people, there's a lot of talk about all of the incredible uses that you can make for Apache Kafka. And also, it would be important to mention that they don't just, Confluent didn't just make Kafka. They also are responsible, and of course, their managed services cloud, but also Apache Flink, or F-Link. I like saying Flink because it sounds like a sound like, I don't know, a lemur would make or something like that. Flink, Flink, which is a stream processing and batch processing framework. If I told you that IBM acquired batch processing and data, and you'd be like, oh yeah, like the Kool-Aid man. That's what IBM's all about. Good acquisition. Looks like a good amount of money for both sides, and I think they're really going to make hay from this.
I got a quick question. How would you know what kind of noise a lemur would make?
I love lemurs. I actually have on the wall of my office a giant painting of lemurs, and it turns out that they only say things like Flink to their friends.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I've never heard it. Wasn't there a show about a lemur my kids watched when they were little?
Zaboomafoo.
Zaboomafoo.
Absolutely.
Yes, that was it. That's what I thought you were going to tell me, Stephen, that Zaboomafoo said Flink. Or Slink.
All right. So
And
have
here
you
we
been
are
to
on
the
the
Lemur
lemur
Center
gang.
in North
Okay,
Carolina?
I'm sorry about
Yes. Hope, I
Alan,
love
hey,
you. You're the best. Yes, donate to the Duke University Lemur Center.
Excellent.
Alan,
we
jumping
go.
in on this.
That's,
Um,
I'm glad we went down that road. Go ahead, Mitch.
I don't have any lemurs. I'm sorry. No lemur stories. This complements what HashiCorp announced with their infograph earlier this summer, graph database around the infrastructure. So there's contextual information for AI to use as part of its processing. Now you add this real live streaming, high volume data for data pipelines, both going into AI and traditional software. They're doing a good job of beefing up their data platform, if you will. I wouldn't be surprised to see more acquisitions in the data space for IBM.
I think you're spot on, because I think when I look at all this AI stuff, at the end of the day, it comes down to the right data's got to be in the right place at the right time. And that's easier said than done, Hope. But, what's your sense? Are we moving away from kind of this batch-oriented mindset that Stephen mentioned, and are we shifting over everything into near real time?
I think that's the goal. That's what a lot of people want. And right now, that is what people are hoping that they're able to do. So, and if people don't know, this streaming data is like the nervous system for the applications we have now. So, bank transactions, when you swipe your credit card and it comes back and says yes. You click on a website, you have sensors with flowing data. Those things matter. So with that cloud native engine, hopefully handling gigabytes of data per second, yes, that becomes more and more of a reality, and no lag. And I think even what we consider fast today, maybe in a few years we will feel as slow. And if anybody remembers, I do, the days of trying to download something, and you'd be lucky if you could get 10 megabytes overnight, whereas now you can download a gig in a few seconds. I think someday, right, hopefully we can scale to that point where we can look back and see those big differences.
Well, Stephen, I think that sound you heard was actually Watson X giving a big sigh of relief as it took a big gulp of data coming its way.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's another method to the madness here of IBM. I put up an article yesterday, I believe on TechStrong AI, about IBM CEO Arvind Krishna did an interview where he called out the industry on the AI data center model, and quite frankly, quoting Bill Clinton, it's just arithmetic, folks. It's just old arithmetic. And according to Arvind Krishna, the arithmetic doesn't work for AI data centers under the current guise of things. So I think knowing that, and you got to assume that the people at IBM and Arvind himself, they've got some experience in this space, in data centers and economics of it and all of that. So I think they're deliberately here making a bet. How did they ride this AI wave without exposing themselves to the GPU waves and bubbles and so forth? Being the data kings, right? They'll run the data management. They'll run the underlying clouds and security and these things, right? without actually being exposed to an AI bubble. Just throwing it out there.
So I agree on Kafka, but I'm not entirely sure that, it's open source, right? So IBM buys a company that provides managed services. Okay. But there are other companies that can provide managed services around Kafka. So it basically comes down to them acquiring the talent and the expertise to manage Kafka, which other people can get. So when I look at this a little bit, I'm kind of like, well, okay, but can you hold on to that expertise? Or are you just adding to the IBM services portfolio and a bunch of consultants? But, what is the thing that you bought? Because, well, Kafka is free to everybody.
I think it's more than Kafka. You're right about that, because it is the most popular platform for streaming data. But I think it's an integration strategy of how they tie this into the other products, as well as the acquisitions, Red Hat and HashiCorp. But things like stream sets, even going back, you mentioned DataStack, web methods. I mean, they have so many platforms that can benefit from a streaming data platform. I think this is kind of a universal win.
So I should look for that Red Hat OpenShift Kafka / DataStax bundle any day now.
Absolutely.
But
a little bigger.
But that joke is also that you just made actually points to one of the challenges that IBM has ahead of them, right? So integration, this is a lot. This is a lot of technology to integrate, make sure it all plays well together, and that whoever is in sales for IBM, when they're out in the field, they can make it make sense, and people aren't building their own Frankenstein monster.
I think the key is making 1 + 1 + 1 = 7, right? Because otherwise, you could go get the open source Kafka, or you could get someone else who gives you a managed Kafka, and you could get SUSE or a different Linux over here, and Rancher for your cloud native, and you open Tofu for the hashy stuff. It's the 1 + 1 = 4 model that IBM has to perfect and sell here. And
There's three words: enterprise, enterprise, enterprise.
Yeah.
And you look at the success of Red Hat, and this is a model that is working. It's a model that's working for IBM. It's a model that's working for their customers. I don't hear a lot of people complaining about Red Hat. I hear a lot of people that are really happy with that product and with the products that they're getting from IBM. I think that's exactly how they make this work.
Their pattern is to leave it alone for a couple of years, then start to integrate it.
Well, they've got a little experience doing acquisitions, Mitch.
Yeah, they do. You're right about that.
I think somebody looks at this and starts to conclude that maybe, the big winners in all of this are the providers of the storage and the networking platforms on which that data is going to be moving around.
This is the open source community. It's the open source community, because once again, open is the future. No one wants lock-in. No one wants to be locked in. We got to take a break, though, and come back. We got our third block coming up here. A little green story about carbon capture. You're watching TechStrong, gang.
Discover TechStrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with TechStrong Group.
Hey folks, we're back, and on Tuesday, especially in the C block, we like to talk about climate, ecology, and all the things that go with that involving IT, and today is no exception. Google is talking about a way to capture carbon from data centers, and that's how we're going to solve a lot of these AI issues. Stephen, what do you think? Is this a viable approach, and is this going to make more sense than, I don't know, putting a windmill in everybody's backyard?
No, but it's better than a kick in the head, that's for sure. But only moderately. So Google, so what's going on here is there's this Broadwing Energy Center that's being built in Illinois. They're pitching it with very, very, very green looking pros and photos. You know, they got pictures of leaves. They even got pictures of solar panels in this thing. But this thing is a natural gas fired power plant. Don't be fooled. It is 100% a natural gas fired power plant. The greenish aspect of it is that they're using carbon capture technology that was developed by a little company. I believe that this is using ADM's carbon capture. Essentially, what they're going to be doing is as they burn the natural gas, they're going to capture the CO2 and sequester it on site to keep it from getting out into the atmosphere, which, like I said, better than a kick in the head, but really not all that green because this is still a fossil fuel powered plant. And what's happening here is that this Broadwing, they were building this 400 megawatt plant in Illinois to essentially take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of Midwest natural gas available and there's a demand for power. And they think they were kind of hoping, you know, if you build it, they will come in the old cornfield here. And they did come. In fact, Google is committed to basically absorbing pretty much all the output from this plant. So those of local folks or whatever who thought that maybe this was going to be something that was going to benefit the local, it is going to benefit the local economy. But if they thought it was going to benefit them in terms of power supply and stuff, well, not as much as you might think, because Google's going to buy most of the output. But what this does, again, to be a little bit more optimistic, is it is a stamp of approval on carbon capture, which is, again, better, than not. It is a money that's going to go into this process that's going to help develop it and perhaps allow us to see more of it rolled out in other places, which would be good. And of course, it means that Google is going to use a little less carbon producing fossil fuel power, in addition to the many other eco-friendly power sources that they're using. So it's not bad. It's just not all that green. It's sort of a pale gray greenish color. What would we call that? I don't know.
Puke green. I always called it puke green, Stephen.
So explain this to me, because I'm not up on my carbon capture thing, but I'm assuming I'm going to look out behind my data center somewhere and there's, I don't know, 10 acres. And am I quite literally capturing carbon and just keep digging a hole in the ground until I put all this
that's
carbon
not
away?
what they're doing here. My understanding is they're converting the carbon into CO2, so combining it with O2, right? And pumping it into underground aquifers, which the middle of the U.S. is riddled with. What could go wrong?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So ADM has been basically producing ethanol, which produces CO2 as well. And they're the big corn company. They're big corn.
Isn't ADM
Very
Archer
corny.
Daniel Millins that always gets
Yes.
sued for kind of environmental disasters? And
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
carcinogens?
They're fine.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying here. So at some point, do I have to call the septic truck people and they come and pump all this out, just all those houses on Long Island? Or how does this work? I mean, where does
Easy
it all
on
go?
Long Island there, mister.
You'll hear a giant burp coming out of the Midwest just to periodically to expel that gas.
We got to hope there won't be. The idea is that you pump it, as Alan said, you pump it underground into limestone formations, depleted oil fields, that sort of thing, and you leave it there. And hopefully, over time, either it'll stay there or it will combine with the shale and so on that will keep it sort of dissolved, and not chemically, but sort of it'll keep it in place. And we better hope that there's not a carbon capture burp 100 years from now, because if there is, that's a lot of carbon that's going to suddenly get up into the atmosphere.
But wait, there's more. The cost of liquid gas-powered energy combined with the cost of the carbon capture and storage makes it far more expensive than solar or wind-powered energy.
Oh, but there's tax credits.
Yes. it is far more expensive. It will be far more expensive. And at the same time that we're doing this, China just rolled out a solar field the size of Chicago that is producing way more energy than this and is going to produce no carbon that we have to store at about half the price.
You know what one of my favorite sounds in the world is? It's the sound of that can as it gets kicked down the road.
But to your point, so Google isn't just betting on this, right? So they signed the corporate agreement for those small modular reactors with Kairos Power.
Mm-hmm.
And they are saying that's going to be online by 2030, but really operating by 2035. So they are betting on both of these, and what they are doing for carbon capture, that might be offline in 25 years, right? So really, this is, in my opinion, all about the tax credits. So
well, it's about the tax credit, and it's about currying favor with the Don.
Not to send Stephen over the edge, but this is the same Google who's now talking about building data centers in space with other people too. But
Well, it's true. What Google is doing a lot of different things. Yes, they're trying to support small modular nuclear reactors, and whether those will work, who knows. They're also, for example, they have a new geothermal project that they're working on in Nevada, I believe. They've got energy storage with a company called Energy Dome, which actually uses CO2 to store energy produced by actual renewables like wind and solar. So Google isn't the bad guy here. In fact, as I said, Google is this is the positive side of the equation. But I really do think that this is all about politics. It's about, making the current administration, kind of working with them in their framework in terms of what they'll accept in terms of power and what they'll accept. A natural gas powered power plant sounds exactly like what they'll accept.
It's supporting a fossil fuels future.
I don't know. I think they'll take the CO2, turn it into rocket fuel, and then that's how we'll get the data center in space. See, there you go.
Yeah.
It's all circular.
And one more point, and I'm not being completely down on this, believe me, but the contrarian in me comes out for this story. So carbon capture, it's been around for something like 50 years, right? They've been developing carbon capture and storage that long. And over all of that time, they've captured and stored less than 2%, maybe it's like 1.1% of the annual global CO2 emissions, right? It feels to me we are solving the wrong problem. Not that people don't know that, but the wrong problem is being solved. You're catching everything after it's out versus the preventative measures that you could take.
Agreed. It's politics.
Absolutely endorse that. Yep. And to me, it reminds me a little bit of like post-consumer recycling, which again is a feel-good measure that really only affects a very small amount of the waste and disposal of things that could be recycled. It's about making people feel good about contributing to the solution, which they are. I mean, 1% is better than 0%. 5% is better than 0%, but it's really not going to solve the problem.
Stephen, down here in Florida, a lot of the municipalities have stopped the recycling because they have so much they don't know what to do with it, which is kind of ridiculous, but it is Florida.
Yeah, so claim low carbon power while you enable high carbon infrastructure.
Anyway, soon enough though, when you get your AI, you'll be able to check that box that says, do you want do carbon credits with it? But who knows?
So we're just handing out climate pinkies to everybody that we can just kind of maybe put some branded logos on. Is that where we're going?
I think that was the goal of the last administration. This administration wants to ban those.
We'll give everyone a participation trophy from FIFA. All right, that's a good place to end today's show. Hope, Stephen, Mitch, Mike, thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Hey, do go check out all our reInvent content from last week. There's some great stuff up there. Stephen, it's good to see you. We'll see you next week. Hope, always a pleasure. Take care, everyone. Until tomorrow, I'm Alan Shimel. We're out.